It's time for Inside the Patch with your Las Vegas Raiders. Here's Gnarley Charley.
I think they call this best case scenario. It is Inside the Patch. I'm Gnarley Charley. We are ESPN 1430, your Valley local sports leader, along with Mitch Adams, who we were texting during the game, before the game, and just a great thing. And I want to open up the show with, I will, we will, I believe, we believe. And that is the mantra of the Raiders right now. Just beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you look at what Detroit did by bringing Dan Campbell in.
Yeah.
This tight end, and what they did inside the NFL, I watched it. And, it's easier to watch inside the NFL during the summer opposed to in season, although I've watched a little bit. But I fell in love with Dan Campbell. I was like, oh, my God. That is the kind of coach the Raiders need. And I'm trying to figure out who that was. Jack Del Rio was in that, cut out of that mold.
I liked it.
But there is something about Antonio Pierce, a kid that grew up in South Central and Compton as a Raider fan. And and we talked about this. I had no idea that was his background. I only knew him from playing for Washington and for the New York Giants.
Yeah.
And that he was a stout linebacker that was all business. And I remember seeing him on the sidelines of this Raider team as the linebacker coach. And I remember the first time I saw him, I said, wow, we have Antonio. We've got a good one.
Right.
Because they're going to listen to him. And, fast forward to 6 weeks ago, we make this shift. And he's the interim head coach. And he says, I don't want the big office unless I'm given the big office. I don't want to sit there.
I'm moving one time, he says.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, I don't know if we talked about it, but I remember thinking that if he beats Kansas City, that's his job. And boy, he beat Kansas City. And statistically, when you look at the stats, there is no way we should have won that game based on stats. It's a statistical anomaly.
On paper,
that
we
on
lose.
Paper, but games aren't played on paper. They're played on the field. And you can have something like 2 turnovers that result in touchdowns.
Yeah.
Break the spirit of the team that turned it over. And we've been on that end. We've had turnovers go against us and taken back for scores, and it just deflates you. And they had 2. And it deflated them and inflated us. I mean, we went to the point that Christmas miracles do happen, because I'm sitting here and I know they went to a place. I went to a place, and it was just, people are texting me during the game. Most I don't respond to because they're not my typical in-game texters. Like if we've not done this before, don't bother me, because I don't want to mess up the aura or the whatever, the mystical powers that were happening. I didn't want to mess that up by gloating or sending out a text, I told you so. I waited until after the game.
I popped 5 Pepsids during I was doing antacids. I was like, I can't handle this. I can't take this.
It was unreal. And then we break off the long run in the fourth quarter to take it to the 2-minute warning. Wow. And I had yet to do the math in my head that we could down it 4 times. And I think it was Romo said, oh, they just need to down it 4 times and it's over. And I was like, he's right.
We've talked about this one thing all year. It's an intangible. It's almost like momentum, but it can't be. You can't put a number on it. You can't pick it. I mean, look at Las Vegas. Las Vegas is pretty good about picking scores. This is the 3rd time this year only that a team was a double-digit underdog and they won outright. So Vegas missed this. No one saw this coming. But and I don't know, like I said, there's no test to say there's a difference in us. You can't say, "Oh, we're hopping better," or we're, it's an energy that you can't put a number on.
It is an energy. And if you've played any sport or worked in a business where you get momentum on your side, like working in sales, you may have made 1,000 phone calls over the month trying to get some leads, and then you get 2 or 3 that turn into something. And now you feel better about what you're doing. And when you make those calls or send those emails, they're received with a different energy. The person on the receiving end says, "Oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. Let me learn a little bit more." And that's kind of what's happening on this football field, that these guys are coming out with a different energy, and they're believing that if they put the effort in, something good will come out. Because we've talked early in the season that there was nobody opposite Crosby making any pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, you kept saying it. We need someone on that side.
Guess what? Kuntz has presented himself.
Hello, I'm Kuntz, and I'm here to stay.
And quarterbacks, watch out. And now Tyrese Wilson is playing better, coming off the edge as well. And what that has done is also allowed the push up the middle to be that much better, because when you've got those rush ins going, now the inside of that offensive line has to help the outside protection, which leaves the middle open. And then we get to push up the middle. Although it was a bad handoff, them doing a trick play, and then Mahomes and the running back, number 10, I think it was number 10, mishandled the ball. An interior lineman picked that ball up and waltzed into the end zone.
There's a reason you don't get too cute in the NFL. There's a reason you don't do too many flippy, flea flicker, because every time you hand the ball, there's a chance something doesn't go right.
And late in the season, most teams have done their film studies. So unless you have something new that you haven't shown yet, any good defensive coordinator is going to spot the lineup and the tendency and say, you know what? Keep an eye out for this one. And those things are starting to fall into our favor. And speaking of defensive coordinators, Patrick Graham has done a phenomenal job since AP took over.
I don't want him to leave. I'm scared of that. He is ripe to be a head coach right now.
He has the Raiders playing they have a top 10 defense since AP took over. Mm-hmm. Top 10. That wins ball games for you. And Jones, number 18, another pick 6. It's like, oh my God, what's happening?
But did you see that coaching moment again? Did you see Jones? Jones a wild card, and I love it.
Yeah,
and he doesn't fit in with the Patriots, and he's a troublemaker sometimes, but he's a great player. And so he does the pick 6, he talks to Mahomes, he does his thing, and then the next play, somebody said something to him, and he's losing his mind.
He lost his mind, and he lost his mouth guard as well.
Okay.
And then they show in the background one of the Chiefs take it and chucks it. And he's going towards him, and Antonio Pierce is out there saying, "Hey man, to the sideline. Like, get to the sideline." It took a little bit, but he went, and then he grabbed or snatched a mouthpiece out of the trainer's hand. I guess it was pissed.
Yeah.
And he gets back out there. But yeah, I think it stemmed with them snatching his But
the point is, when he, let's say, snapped, he lost it for a second. When that happens, you're now not putting the team in front. You're in your own selfish thing, whatever. But when you have a guy like Antonio Pierce, who went to Mark Davis and said, "I can control this guy. We need him on our team," and bam, and that's coaching. That's a prime example of coaching, right there.
Well, and we saw it in the last game when I think it was Hobbs made a bonehead play, got a 15-yard penalty. Get out, get on the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
Made him sit out a play or two, to let him think about it. Old coaches let you stay in the game. Antonio's, come on, come to the sideline. Come think about that. So he's got he's got a grasp on this team. And then on top of that, and we talked about it, he's got Marvin Lewis coming to games, Tom Coughlin. So again, he knows what he doesn't know. So he's bringing in those that do know, and they're tutoring him. And it's really nice that the Raiders are allowing him to bring in people with NFL experience, head coaching experience, to walk him through the different scenarios. And I just love what I'm seeing. This guy, he's got some on-the-job training, but it's from, again, experienced head coach Marvin Lewis, head coach Tom Coughlin, championship head coach Tom Coughlin. And I'm like, wow. And a lot of guys have too much pride to say, you know what? Let me bring somebody in to help me or tell me what I don't know.
Well, I think
show me what I don't know.
At the beginning of the year, somebody asked Josh McDaniel about, do you do a speech? And he goes, I don't feel like a speech is going to motivate these people. If they can't, it was like, that's not in his mentality. So I'm going to lay out a plan. You're going to follow it to a T. I know I can get somebody else. Well, that's not what Antonio Pierce is. And the word Raider, like a Raider, has been coming up a lot this week. And people know what that means. In fact, I think one of the things they said,
Raiders. I mean, it's beautiful.
Okay, but isn't it funny? He doesn't have the right pitch. He can't. His voice is not meant to say it, but he does it anyway, and I love it. It sounds like a bull, elk in heat. It doesn't have the resin. But he's got the energy.
It's really the cadence of
the
Raiders. He's slightly off, but you know what? Who's going to tell him?
No, and you know what? I want it off. I don't want perfect. Okay, this is another quote that they said that we're all about intent, violence, physicality, and execution, and the will to win. And I'm like, that sounds like 1976. Oakland, California.
Yes.
If you played the Raiders, well, you knew you were going to be in the hot tub the next day because you're going to get hit.
Yeah.
And it's different now, but I'm telling you, there's something in the air, man.
It really is. And when we go out and beat these Colts and not up our record 8-8, Week 17 will have some meaning for us because I do believe that we'll be playing for a playoff spot. We may need some help. Yeah. But I think that I don't know if we control our own destiny. I haven't studied it that deeply.
I'll tell you, there's two easy ways. One, if the Chiefs lose the next two games and we win the next two, we win the division.
I know.
Which I don't see that happening. But if we win the rest of our games.
Who do the Chiefs have?
The Chiefs are playing the Bengals.
Yep.
And the Bengals we need them to lose also.
Yeah,
well, I went to ESPN. They have a thing called, it's a playoff generator. And you can actually put in the team. It's like it says week 17. And you put in teams who just pick two who won or lost. It shows you what happens then. So I was messing with it. And the Raiders do need some help. But the fact that we're playing the Colts, we don't have a choice. We have to win their next two games. One of the games is the Colts. So that'll fix itself. That's one of our obstacles. It doesn't. At this point, I feel like I would love to be in the playoffs, but I also feel like the season was saved, and now we have something, But I'm not giving up. I'm still not giving up.
I've not felt this sort of momentum since 2017. I'm sorry. But
I know you.
There was that game where we had to beat the Chargers last game of the season to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
and that was that went to overtime, didn't it?
Yeah, and we could have tied, and they could have got in, but we went for it and burned them. And they lost. But then we played the Bengals, and we almost won. But I don't think we were big enough to face the Rams or whoever. I don't think it would have bode well for us. This is different now. This is a different.
It feels different. There's a different energy because it feels like 100% buy-in from top to bottom of the organization. Whereas before, it's like, maybe we get a new head coach, maybe we don't. This feels different. And
Crosby, it's all around Crosby. Crosby's the guy that says, we want it more. We want it more. And it shows.
And he's rubbing off on that defense.
Dude.
Oh, my God.
If you're playing with that guy, you better be trying just like him or you're not on the team, It is a different team.
I'm watching, and I'm like, are we covering that well? That these quarterbacks don't have time to throw? And the answer has to be a resounding yes. And I don't know what Patrick Graham is doing because I don't have an all 22 where I can watch this and just see the whole field. But whatever we're doing back there, that front seven is getting after it. And if we play what we played against the Chargers, and especially offensively, if we play like we played against the Chiefs defensively,
even the
put
Dolphins,
all that together for the Colts, we win. And then take that to week 18, game 17, and beat the Broncos at home, man, we stand a good chance.
You hear something funny? So I'm in fantasy football. I'm in like 5 leagues or whatever, but I'm in the playoffs for this league, right? I have Patrick Mahomes as my quarterback. I'm playing against the Chiefs defense. I have Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams laid an egg, and so did Patrick. And it kicked me. I lost. I'm out, and I should have won, but I'm happy. I said, I'm either, okay, so if Patrick does great, then I win the fantasy football. Who cares? I'm happy that I lost. I don't care. The Raiders are, it's like you said, it's you can't touch it. It's almost like faith. It's almost like, I don't know. It's there. It's something there.
Michael Mayer didn't play. They had a tight end. I can't even remember his last name. It was so long.
Yeah.
Then
it's next man up.
Josh Jacobs isn't playing.
I don't
72 goes down, and they bring another. It's like
I feel like they're a team though. Like what about Colton Miller? Did you hear what happened with him?
Who's that?
So Colton Miller, he's out. He's got a shoulder injury. Come down to the last drive, and they need he put himself in, and coach said, "Oh, I see 68 going in." I'm like, okay, and he finished the game strong. And that's when Illuminor went down.
Yeah,
and he goes, and Cole didn't even ask; he just ran out there, and he was kind of,
and that's the difference.
Yeah,
I didn't know that he was. Well, I knew he put himself in. I knew that part. I didn't know that he was injured.
Yeah, well, they're making him. They don't want to wreck him, so he was there. Obviously, he dressed out, but they really didn't want him to play because he's not all the way there yet. You don't want him to hurt himself.
Wow.
Okay, Mitch, I've had 2 times in my life where when I got emotional, like at a Raider game. My wife, because I got a vasectomy, bought me season tickets to the Raiders in 2005, right? 10 year PSL. And that's right, I met you and all this, And I remember that they used to have the Will Smith come out on the screen and say, "And we wear black," and they kick the door down, and then Hell's Bells would come on.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting there, and I'm tearing up, and I'm going, "Oh my gosh, I'm crying at this," because it was like, "Boom, your Oakland Raiders," and it was just like, "Oh my gosh." Well, then fast forward to last week, the game's over. The chick's on the field talking to Antonio. And he said, "How about this?" And Antonio tried to say something, and then he just went. And when that man teared up, I did too.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not crying. You're crying. Yeah. But it was like, that's emotion. That's something you don't see.
Yeah. Because he's a man.
Belichick cry? Hell
he's
no.
a man's man. And
yes.
He eats a bowl of iron, like nuts and bolts for breakfast. He's just, or, the guy that chews trees or branches in half. And then when he got choked up, I too was like, whoa.
Oh.
See, there's some magic happening around this team right now. And like you said, you can't qualify it.
No, you can't put a
but
number
it's
on it.
There. And it's there.
And you feel it, you see it. Well, and so even after his Raiders doing his voice, he goes, how about that? How about that? He's just like, how about that? And like I said, it's I believe, we believe. I wrote it down. I will, we will, I believe, we believe. And it's no bullcrap. It's there. It's there, man.
And I think people can see this shift in this energy with this team because I'm getting less and less text and phone calls about nonsense about what happened to your Raiders. Even when Miami game, they were in that game.
Yeah.
They,
the Vikings,
they were in that game.
We were in that game too. We just didn't do anything. Dude,
if the ball doesn't get punched out of Renfro's arm, different ball game. But you know what? You can't go back and change the past. But you can learn from the past, and you could also put a pretty good performance up. Because the only stinker that I truly remember this year, a game that just was like, what did I just – the Chicago game.
Oh, yeah.
That was awful. That team had totally checked out. Run that game versus this game this past week. And if you put an overlay, you would even recognize number 8 and number 8 or number 98. Well, excuse me, not 98 because he plays every game. But that team, those were markedly two different teams. This one hanging their head. This one chest out, head up, chin up. It doesn't matter.
I remember our first week. Like you and I were both, before we started the show, we don't like to talk too much about what's going on, but we're like, I hate that. I hate our coach. And I hate how I feel. And we would tell ourselves, okay, let's not be negative. And we would, 2 sentences and we're turning right into, we hate Josh McDaniel. We couldn't stop it.
I tried my best to defend him week after week to start the season. And I knew in my heart of hearts I wanted to tell the truth, but I kind of skirted around until I couldn't anymore. And I think everybody saw that a change was needed. Change is going to come. And it did. And man, the energy. And again, what we see in this team week 16 now compared to week 4, 2 different organizations. These guys, that locker room was quiet. This is different. We didn't even see pictures. We didn't even see cameras in the locker room back then.
Nope.
Because everyone was sad. Nobody wanted to see that crap. And now it's just joyful.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So I think as we look back at all this, it's like, I'm happy right now. If this is all it is, but I don't feel like that's it.
It's not.
It's like, here we go.
It's not, because I bet there's an emphasis on offensive, shorter play, shorter routes this week so that we can complete pass after pass after pass after pass after pass and then sneak the run in there. But they're going to have to establish the passing game.
We are not going to lose from lack of effort and lack of being prepared and lack of motivation. That's not what's going to kill us. And we went out and we still lose. Well, guess what? We win. It's. I'm not ready to say.
Casey has a really good defense.
Yeah,
really good. And thank God that our defense showed up and allowed us to get a lead and hang on to it.
Yeah.
Boy, that was so.
Wasn't it nice to wear your Raider gear after the Chiefs game? And
I was exhausted. Christmas morning.
Me too.
I'd played golf 4 days. Don't tell anyone. Played golf 4 days in a row, and my brother said, "Hey, do you want to play Christmas morning? We can get if we get first out, we can play it really fast and be home for 10 o'clock." I got home at 9:50.
Right.
Enough time to, put something together in the kitchen for breakfast. I'm looking out of the kitchen at the TV. Okay, game time, and in between, commercials. I'm getting something to eat. When that game went off, I passed out. I literally I was so tired that I just fell asleep, and it didn't matter that there were other games on, or that the Warriors were on that I love.
Right.
I fell asleep on it all. And then woke up, was like, was that a nightmare? Or maybe was I dreaming?
Well, I watched the whole game, and as I watched it, I was scared the whole time. Scared. And I thought, oh, here we go. It was set up for Mahomes to beat us by 1 point at the end. And it did happen. But then I just watched the highlights, and it was like a different game. And I'm like, wait, I don't know. I just know that this is what it is, and this is what happened.
Gnarly, I get what you're saying about them coming back, which has happened time and time again, especially there.
But it's changing. But it's in our
head.
head.
I didn't feel it this game. I was nervous because we weren't moving the ball, but it didn't feel like.
Well, it was tapping me on the shoulder, though. It was tapping me on the shoulder. But I'm like, no.
But it didn't feel like Kansas City had enough momentum on their side to make it happen.
Right.
And our defense just seemed to be stopping everything. Yeah. And, man, wow.
It was something else.
And I get a little speechless sometimes because I do think the football gods they're doing a cosmic shift on the NFL. Like, okay, it's time. It's the Raiders' time again.
Things are changing.
Put them back on top.
Mitch, I'm telling you, this whole year, you and I have said, sometimes I'll text you and go, the hell are we going to talk about? There's just a black cloud over us. And now we're here.
And there's still a black cloud, but it has a silver lining.
There it is. See, that right off the top of his head. Perfect rotation. And that is the perfect rotation training device. Look at this basketball training device. Mitch invented that, and it will change that gets your kids in the pros. Get them that now.
Yep. There are two sizes. And if you use the promo code Raiders, you can get 30% off at perfectrotation.com.
Check it out. Mitch Adams, thank you so much. Let's go Raiders. We'll be back next week with horseshoes for good luck.
When we're 8-8, baby. I'm calling it here.
You got it. All right. Thanks, Mitch.
Okay, Gnarly. Take care of yourself, buddy.
We'll be back with more Inside the Patch on 1430 ESPN, your official home of the Las Vegas Raiders.